wants to get fingered? Welcome to Horror Franchise Wednesday. Let's continue the Feast trilogy with Feast 2, Sloppy Seconds. This one picks up right after the first one, and now we got this biker queen's girlfriend, the one who got her leg chopped off in part 1, her sister or girlfriend or whatever. I think the tattoo says sister, so I guess it's her sister. She wants revenge. She wants to find out who killed her sister, and she thinks that it was Bozo from part 1 because Gulager tells her that, even though he should know that it was the creatures that killed her sister, not Bozo, right? That doesn't really make sense. But anyways, this is very silly, and it's got the same writers, same director, John Gulager, the son of Gulager, and you got Patrick Melton and Marcus Dunstan writing this once again, and it is nothing like the first one. This is a whole different beast, or feast, shall I say, and it's just over the top. Like, they took every little joke in part 1 and they overkilled it in this one. The monster cock thing in part 1, now you see a lot more monster cocks in this one that are bigger, the ball sacks are huger. Like, if you like silly shit like this, it's going to be right up your alley, but to me, it was just a little too much. I did not enjoy this one as much as the first one. In fact, I was actually shockingly bored watching this movie throughout a lot of it. So that's my first negative, is that this one drags. It's 100 minutes long. The other two are like 90 and 80 minutes, the third one. This is the longest one, and it feels the longest. There's some major pacing issues. The pacing is very wonky. It just speeds up and stops, and it just stands still for a long time. They're on the rooftop. There's all these unnecessary sequences, like a dream sequence that makes no sense given who that character is and what she's dreaming about. Why would she be dreaming about that? And like all these like night vision shots, you can just take all that out. You could tighten this film by just trimming about 10 minutes of it at least. And even though this movie feels bigger, it seems like there's a lot more money to it because there's just a lot more happening. There's more locations. It feels cheaper. Like it looks cheaper. It feels bigger, but it looks cheaper. There's a lot of green screen. Like when on the rooftop, there's a lot of green screens being used. They shot probably in like a studio. The music is even like stock music. A lot of the sound effects, the sound design, and just the score. It just feels like shit they took from like YouTube. It feels so cheap, but yet also bigger because there's a lot more creatures in here. They don't have a name. I don't think they ever name what these things are, so I'm just going to call them monsters. There's a lot more monsters. There's a lot more characters. So, like I said, it's like it feels bigger, but it feels cheaper and lesser. I don't know. It's just I don't care for all the CGI blood. There's a lot of that in here. A lot of CGI effects, green screen, and that they took away the one funny thing from the first one that I really liked, which was the title cards where you get their name, their job, their life expectancy. They took that away from this one, but thankfully they bring it back in part 3. And I feel like they show the creatures in this movie way too much. That's just a nitpick, but there's just a lot of like random cuts to them like running around downtown, and it's showing them way too much. Like, they're not even remotely scary in this one. They were a lot more intimidating in part 1. Now that scare factor is just completely erased here. This is just a monster spoof. Like, it's not taking itself seriously at all, but they just show them way too much, and they don't even look that good. The effects in this one. And it has an abrupt, like, cliffhanger ending that I don't care for. It didn't leave me excited for what was to come. It was just like, I don't care for that ending. As soon as things were like about to happen, the monsters are breaking through the door. It's like, hard cut, it's over, to be continued. And I was like, fuck that. And no Bozo, no Harley, the mom in part 1. Like, they should have been in here because the whole point of the biker queen chick, or whoever she is, taking Clue to this town, the whole purpose was to find these two, and they never find them. So I just felt like that was a missed opportunity. Maybe they couldn't get those actors back, but I feel like they should have been in this movie. Mixed thoughts on this movie is the practical effects. Like I said already, the creatures, they don't look as good as they did in part 1. Mainly, it's because they show them in broad daylight now. The whole movie is like daylight, so it's not like nighttime at the bar. They don't keep the camera up close and use frantic cuts. They don't hide the effects as much like they did in part 1. they're exposed in this one, so you get to really examine them, and they just don't look as good. But then there's some gore effects in here that do look good. You get quite a few different gory gags in here that are funny and silly, but just really not a whole lot of it. I feel like the first one is the goriest, if you ask me. And the humor also. I don't like a lot of the humor in this movie, but I did chuckle quite a few times. So it's like, like I like some of the humor, but the humor that I didn't like was the just overuse of piss, fart, and jizz and shit jokes in the movie. You got like a 10-minute segment of like an autopsy scene where it's just constant piss, shit, vomit, every bodily fluid just flying out of this monster. It's so over the top, and I was not enjoying it. It's very disgusting. It's going for that, trying to gross you out, and it succeeds, but that's not funny to me. So it was supposed to be humorous, but I was not laughing as much as I should have been. So I guess it's just not for me. Humor is subjective. This was not that funny to me. It was just eye rolling. I was just rolling my eyes the whole time. Now the positives is, the first one, they killed a kid, so when right in this movie they're like, well, how can we top that? This movie starts with killing a dog, and then later on they kill something even more offensive. Like what this guy does is more offensive than killing a dog. It's freaking brutal. It's very mean-spirited, very cruel, and this one has something that the first one does not have, and that's a lot of nudity. This one has a biker gang of hot chicks that just take their tops off and they're just walking around topless for like the third act. So that was pretty cool. And I like the continuity where it picks up right after part one, and you got like the same actors playing the same characters. You got Gulager, and you got the chick who played the biker queen in part one playing her, I guess, twin sister or whoever I'm guessing she's like a twin or something. So I like that, and I like Gulager's character in this movie. Like, he was the funniest aspect of the film. It was his line delivery, his jokes, his little one-liners that actually made me laugh the most. So I like his character. And so final thoughts, it was a big letdown, though, to be honest, I did not enjoy this movie. I laughed a couple of times, yeah, but it was not funny enough or gory enough or entertaining enough for me to recommend it, but it could entertain some people. If you like this very disgusting juvenile humor, then you'll enjoy every minute of it. But to me, it was just way over the line for me. It was not landing the jokes. It was just very just immature. Like, it seems like middle school kids wrote this movie. Like, they just like, I think this will be funny. What if we like throw people over the roof in the catapult system and they just fly? Like, they just thought of so much random stupid stuff and they just threw it in here. It wasn't working for me, but it might work for some, so check it out if it sounds like it's something you might like. But I can't honestly recommend it to you because, like I said, the pacing especially, it dragged, it bored me, and it just was a huge letdown to me. So when it comes to Feast 2, I gotta say that this movie to me was just wasted time. Alright, time to talk some spoilers. So in the opening, the dog is fetching like a severed hand, very Lucille Fulci, New York Ripper, and it just gets shot by this biker queen lady 4 times with this shotgun. Like, once wasn't enough. She shoots it again and again and again, and it's like whimpering each time. It's very mean and unnecessary. I think one shot was enough. And why shoot the dog? And whose dog was it? It had like a collar. Whose dog was this? It's not anybody in the first movie. And so Gulager is alive in this movie, and he's in the third one also. So he's gonna live in this one, and I don't know how. How is he living? He's like holding his neck, stopping the bleeding throughout the entire film. Every time you see him, he's holding his neck. Part 3 also, he's holding his neck throughout both movies. He's not bleeding out. He is fucking Superman. It makes no sense. He was dead in part 1, so they completely ignored that. Even his little card at the beginning of the movie, it confirmed that he was gonna die. But then again, some of those things weren't accurate to begin with, but his was. He died 70 minutes or 75 minutes into the movie, like it said. So, like, his whole throat was ripped out, but now he's alive. But I'm glad he is, because like I said, he was the best humorous part of the whole movie. Like, his jokes, like, he was what actually kept me going. So without him, this movie would be even worse. So yeah, she asks Clue, like, where's Bozo? Like, no, she says, like, who killed my sister? And he's like, it was Bozo, because he's the one that like did the bomb and blew her up. But he didn't see any of that. Like, how, did he? I don't think he did. So that didn't make sense. But why would he automatically blame Bozo? Why wouldn't he be like, well, she was killed by a creature? Yeah. So yeah, he did. So he did know that Bozo blew her up, but he didn't know she was still alive. They thought that she was dead. That's why they were rigging her with explosives. So, yeah, like he wouldn't say that it was Bozo, so that just doesn't make any sense. He would just say the creature killed her. So then we took her dead body and we blew it up to kill the creatures. So, I don't know. Plot convenience. So then we get these little people. You can't say midgets, right? They even bring that up in the movie. The guy calls them a midget, and he's like, it's little people, which to me sounds more offensive, but I don't know. You be the judge. Is it more offensive? Whatever. I don't know. It just sounds worse. Like, if I was a midget, I wouldn't want people calling me a little person all the time, but whatever. But this little person has a huge fucking dick. It's ridiculous. It's bigger than him. Like, if he stood it up, it'd probably be taller than his height. That's how big his dick goes out. It's ridiculous, over the top. And so then Clue, he finds Honey Pie from part one, who abandoned them, drove off in that Coors like beer truck. She is in this town and they just meet up. And as soon as he sees her, Clue kicks the shit out of her. Like, he is banging her head against the toilet like 5 times. He's throwing her around, biting her ear off, throws her out the window. And meanwhile, all these biker girls just watch. You would think they would stand up for one of their own. Like, she's a woman. He's beating the shit out of a woman, and these other women just don't care. They don't mind. They're like, well, she's not in our group, so fuck her. We don't know her. Do what you want, Clue. So, and she survives all of this. You would think that she would be knocked unconscious during just the first attack when he's like hitting her head against the toilet. And that toilet was filled, of course, with piss and shit. And but yeah, even when he throws her out the window, they look over immediately, and she's already back up on her feet, walking away, not even limping. She's okay. She's indestructible. She must have taken some hardcore drugs. So then we get this autopsy scene, and they use a blowtorch to cut open the creature, and this is where it gets absolutely insane and disgusting. And for some reason, no matter how much piss and shit and vomit and whatever is spewing out of this thing, no one just leaves the goddamn room so that they can stop being sprayed with this crap. They just keep staying. It's like, get out of the room. And there's a huge eyeball inside the creatures now. What? That makes no sense. What's up with that? So even though Honey Pie can withstand so much damage from Gulager and be able to just walk away and not lose consciousness from having her head bashed like she did, it took just a simple fall in her ass for her to get herself knocked out cold. That was ridiculous. And what's more absurd is her dream sequence that you can just take out of this movie. It makes no sense. Why is she dreaming a romantic dream of her being with that guy from part one who she was disgusted by? The guy with the maggots in his eye, she was never attracted to him. She was attracted to Henry Rollins, his character. So why is she dreaming about fucking this guy in like the woods or whatever? It's just like this acid trip dream that she's having. Like, it feels like you're on drugs when you watch it. It's just absurd. Does not need to be here. Take it out. And so Grandma in this movie, she melts a lot quicker. The guy in the first one, when he gets puked on, he slowly deteriorates throughout the movie, getting the maggots and stuff, and you see like his veins like blackening. You can just tell he's deteriorating from the inside, and his skin's like falling apart towards the end a little bit. Grandma in this one, when she gets puked on, not even like an hour later in the day, she's just like melting. Her skin's falling off her arms and legs, her face, and they're like dumping liquid grandma out on the ground. Like, oh, she is liquefied, and it's disgusting. And so then we get the cruelest scene in the movie. You would never see this in the theater. This film would never make it. because of this scene alone, this would just never fly. So this guy is on the roof. He hears a baby crying, and he's like, "This is how you save a life." Cue the Fray music. How to save a life. And he just goes off to save a life, grabs the baby, starts running down the street. Monsters are chasing him, realizes that one of them has to go, and he chooses the baby. He throws the baby up in the air. Sorry, baby. Throws it up in the air to save his own skin. And we get like this slow motion shot of the baby flying in the air. They should have been playing that one song, "I Believe I Can Fly," as the baby's flying in the air in slow motion. It's like smiling. It doesn't really know what's happening. It thinks it's a ride, I guess. And then this baby, as it starts going down, descending back to the earth, I guess it starts to realize, oh, this isn't good. So it starts like crying. And then the footage speeds up and it just boom, hits the ground, thud. You hear like crunch noises. And then you just cut back to the baby on the ground in a pool of its own blood, and then monster comes into frame, picks it up and chomps it, and boom, baby's dead. So fucking cruel. And they let this asshole back on the roof with them. They give him shit about it, like, oh man, that's messed up even for this group, but they keep him along. They don't ever like throw his ass back off the roof. Like, they should have killed him, honestly. But he does get what he deserves, a pipe shoved through up through his chin, out the top of his head, and survives. So that wasn't even enough. I guess he's got like a small brain. It didn't hit his brain. It somehow managed to, I don't know how, that's not physically possible. But this whole movie's ridiculous. It's not going for realism. But yeah, he got a pipe or whatever shoved through his head, and he survived it. And he's alive for most of part 3 as well. So then, yeah, they create this catapult to fly them from one rooftop to the next, and they test grandma out first, and then they throw the little person out, and you think he's gonna make it to the other and probably die, because there's no way. Like, dude, that amount of force, even if you did land on the other roof, you would break like every bone in your body. But he like goes and he only makes it like halfway and then falls like straight down, hits the ground, starts getting ripped apart, and the CGI there on his lower half is awful. Ugh, why do that? Why not like create a fake ground or something and then just have practical effects there? Budgetary reasons, maybe? I don't know. Oh, I completely skipped over this. So in one moment, at some moment in the movie, we just see a cat getting fucked up against a telephone pole. It's just going to town on this fucking cat, and then we just see the cat walk away completely fine. Like, that cat's, we've seen the monster's cocks. That cat would have been destroyed. It would have never been, it would have been like limp. It would have been funny if they somehow got the cat to like limp, to like start limping away, like crying. I don't know. It's just ridiculous. We got a cat being raped in this movie and a baby being thrown in the air and then fed to the monsters that was like a year old. This baby was like not that old. I always think about stuff like this, like when you see babies in movies, you wonder like where they are now and when did they find out that that was them. Like, because this movie came out in 2008, so that kid is like a teenager now. So yeah, I wonder if that kid is watching this movie now. Like, that's me flying through the air and I'm getting eaten alive. So yeah, but then this movie just abruptly ends. They're on the rooftop. The door gets busted open by the monster. There's an explosion at this store across the street. The hobo like lights dynamite. I'm not sure where he got that. And then you're led to believe that Lightning, the other little guy, the Mexican who can't speak any English, he gets blown away. You think he's dead, but he's in part 3. So, and Honey Pie gets hit by a piece of debris in her throat. So you think that she would be dead, but she's alive at the beginning of part 3 also. So no one can die in this freaking franchise. Like, they're all indestructible. I do like how the ending is shows Honey Pie's face on top of the camera with like a pool of blood going over the lens. That was a cool way to end it. But yeah, that's how the movie ends. That's all I gotta say about this crazy, stupid movie. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. And as always, if you like what you've seen here, you can hit this like button and become a subscriber today just by clicking on my cartoon face in about 5 seconds. And remember, it's just an opinion. You don't need to get butthurt about it.